Hi everyone, welcome to the Arnold's Bequest Charity Board Extraordinary Meeting. Today is the 1st of July 2025. In the event of a fire, please follow the instructions given and directions to the fire exits and make your way to the assembly point adjacent to the Quick Fit building. In the interest of openness and transparency, the law permits recording and photography to report on the proceedings of council meetings when they are open to the public. No flash photography or additional lighting should be used without prior consent. Anyone wishing to report on the meeting or anyone not wishing to be filmed or photographed should notify the clerk or chair. The meeting will be live streamed on YouTube, therefore please remember to speak clearly and use your microphone, remembering to switch it off when you have finished. As the chair of the meeting, I have the discretion to suspend or terminate the live streaming if, in my opinion, continuing to do so would prejudice the proceedings of the meeting. Improper conduct or disruptive behaviour will not be tolerated. Please raise your hand to indicate your wish to speak and wait for me to call upon you. As chair of the meeting, I will determine the order in which members will be invited to speak, and anyone who wishes to speak will be heard. To ensure the efficiency of the meeting, no member may speak for more than 3 minutes on one item or more than once. Therefore, please remember to make your points as succinctly as possible. And can I also remind you to be polite and respectful towards one another at all times. Please put your phones on silent mode and put away phones for the duration of the meeting and adhere to the non-smoking policy of this building and its grounds. So item number 12, to receive and consider approval of apologies for absence. Lauren.
So we've had apologies from councillors Sonia Barker, Robert Breakspear, Neil Colby, Jen Jones, John Murray, Christian Newsom, Graham Parker and John Pitts, all with reasons provided.
Thank you. Propose to accept those apologies. Councillor Pearce, seconded by Councillor Rappensberger. All in favour, please. That's everyone. So we have here present councillors, myself, Nasima Begum, Bernie Rappensberger, Elise Youngman, Andy Pearce, Deborah Ray and Wendy Brooks, and staff members present are Sarah Foot, Acting Town Clerk, and Lauren Elliott, Senior Committee and Project Clerk. Item 13, to note declarations of interest and consider any dispensations. Do we have any declarations of interest to declare? No. Item 14 then, to consider the draft minutes and confidential note of the meeting on the 22nd of April 2025. Councillor Pearce.
I'm not going to take a position on the accuracy of the meeting because I wasn't here, but I did feed in earlier to say that the minutes reflect me as both being present and given an apologies. I actually gave apologies. I understand that's since been amended.
Does anybody want to propose? Councillor Rappensberger propose that they're true and accurate record, seconded by. Anybody wants to second? Councillor Brooks. All in favour, please. Any abstentions? 2 abstentions. Okay. Item 15, to note the current financial position and agree future funding streams. Councillor Pearce.
So I read the briefing paper. It's obviously we've been warning of this position for a year or more now. That basically the first capital project we had could potentially wipe out the budget that we had. You know, we've been sitting on a budget of around 20 grand for several years now. We are down to the fact that when pending payments and VAT reclaims are done, we're on 1,500 quid. So basically, in terms of the funding streams, we're at our previous discussion. Yes, we can seek grant funding from specialist lenders for particular projects and initiatives, but in terms of making sure we've got contingency in place for capital works and maintenance and upkeep, that's a different proposition. We're not going to get grant funding for that. So I think we need a discussion. I understand, you know, the town council, you know, we're here today as trustees, right? We're not here as town councillors. It's just that as town councillors, we are trustees under the charity board arrangement. But I understand that the town council can make loans or donations legitimately in law and under the trust deed. And I think we're going to have to, or the town council is going to have that discussion in a town council meeting as to make an initial offer. So, or at least to cover any expenditures or works up to a maximum budget for the current year. And then when it comes to budgeting, I think we are actually going to have to budget for a specific amount for Arnold's bequest that will then be made available as a donation or loan. Well, it can't be made available as a loan because they've got hardly any income to repay it. So it would effectively have to be a grant or a loan, because the income that Arnold's bequest itself generates is minimal. It isn't going to cover capital risk, capital liability. It might cover small outgoings, but it isn't going to be sufficient to cover any capital risk. So there is going to have to be a discussion between the town council and the charity board, whether it's done, as I say, on the town council underwrites it up to a maximum budget or offers to underwrite up to a maximum budget, or whether it's literally Arnold's bequest has to put in a grants request each time it has some expenditure. I don't know, but going out to sort of specialist green and environmental providers and stuff like that is not going to cover capital works or maintenance and upkeep. It might cover delivery of projects, the pond that's been discussed, benches, bins, that kind of thing. It isn't going to cover routine maintenance and upkeep, or capital works, for example, to prevent a landslip or anything like that.
Thank you. Councillor Brooks.
We can rob Peter to pay Paul. That's one way of doing it. But another way is that something Sarah hinted at the beginning, and something I think we kind of touched on at the last meeting, is that we could actually, we are the charity board and we are trustees. Now, we know from people that come to us that some organisations like Excelsior Trust have kind of friends and supporters and people who donate regularly. I can't see why we can't in some way have some kind of fundraising ambition for Arnold's Bequest and ask people if they'd like to become a friend of Arnold's Bequest and maybe contribute some money that way. Maybe there are people who would like to join the trustee board. But I think we have to be quite honest that we are definitely going to be struggling for cash without a doubt. And maybe we have to, rather than the town council funding, in an emergency, obviously it might have to, but generally what would be is an opportunity for us to maybe see if we can actually broaden out and make Arnold's Bequest something where local people are also involved in. In terms of grants applications, I think we certainly should put in a grant application for the pond, which will be, and I think we should try Essex and Suffolk Coastal Heath or whatever it's called, and Greenprint Forum, and maybe even, I don't know, Community Action Suffolk. But there are lots of organisations that do give funding. That's not going to mean that we have it's not going to be necessarily that good for our bank account. But I think it's an opportunity for us to think, okay, let's open up this charity board to other people, get them involved, get some money from local people, local businesses, whatever, but something I think we should look at.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Well, I think first of all, our staff need to look at the trustee and see whether that's legally possible, because there might be restrictions on who can be a trustee. All right, because we didn't write the trust agreement, we inherited it. So first and foremost, before we start offering membership of the trust board to members of the public, we need our staff to check that that's actually possible under the trust agreement. It's also not robbing Peter to pay Paul. There's an inextricable link between the town council and Arnold's Bequest because the town council is corporate trustee. We didn't make that decision. It was handed to us in a reorganisation order. No one here had the opportunity to refuse to accept that arrangement. That's just a position we've inherited. So absolutely fine exploring third-party grants for delivery of projects, investment in delivery of projects. That's the kind of thing they will cover. And public donations, crowdfunding, no objection, but we can't budget for it. All right, we can't budget on the assumption that it will be successful. So in order to meet our liabilities and risk management, we need some guaranteed. We need to know that some funding each year will be guaranteed if it is needed. Now, whether that is done by making a grant or whether it is done by underwriting costs up to a maximum budget, that discussion is going to need to be had. All right, because we are not, we're not going to have members of the public who are going to come to us and say, well, we guarantee to give you, £10,000 between us in 25-26, so we can explore all options to mitigate the town council's liability, but we are not going to be able to guarantee that in advance of setting an annual budget.
Saying about fundraising, is that something we can do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, absolutely no reason why a charity can't raise funds. That's, you know, core of a charity's work, isn't it? As you've inherited the constitution or the trust deed, and then you have a constitution around that, I would, with charity commission approval, I can't see any reason why, as a trust board, you can't vote to make variations to that. So you could change the constitution of the trust to enable members of the public to be charity trustees if they so wished. Obviously, it's all with regulation of the Charity Commission. For financial support from the town council, it would be, as with any other charity, asking the town council for funding, and you would need the trustees of the charity board here to agree to submit a grant request or funding application to the town council for consideration. The emphasis has got to come from here to the town council, not the town council to decide. The trust, as you're sitting here quite rightly, as Councillor Pearce said, as trustees of the trust board, you need to act responsibly as trustees of the trust board and decide if you're going to submit an application for external funding to the town council or any other body.
Okay, Councillor Brooks.
Can I suggest that as an interim measure, we put in a request to the town council for a lump sum for the next year, so say like 10,000. At the same time, or very soon, we also look at the other things that I've raised as a possibility to try and get Arnold's Bequest on a more secure financial footing. So that's my proposal.
Okay, thank
that
you.
This board, we put a request in to the town council for £10,000, and not that we're asking that for every year, but for the next year, so that we know there is money in there if work is needed, and that at the same time we pursue the other things that were raised.
Okay, Councillor Pearce.
So I'll second that. I think we've had advice previously, so I suggest it goes to F&G, because that'll be the next relevant meeting. I think we have had advice previously on potential conflict of interest if you get members who are wearing the trustee hat in one capacity and then the councillor hat in another. So I suggest that that advice is made available to F&G, so that they can take that into consideration when they're being asked to consider the grant request.
Yeah, there's a legal topic note on councillors acting as trustees. What you'd have to do, I don't know if we could ask Lauren as administrator somehow to write to me as acting town clerk that all councillors would need to be given a dispensation to be able to vote on matters. If not, how can the council possibly vote on whether to give the trust board a grant? You'd all have an interest in it. Yeah. So we can. There's ways around that. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, all in favour, please.
You do the grant application.
Yeah, everyone. Thank you. So moving on to item 16, to note receipt of a claim against the charity board. That's confidential. Anything we need to say? No. Item 17, to consider lease renewal terms for a tenant, is also confidential. And item 18, to consider entering into a license to occupy for car park land, is also confidential. So the date of the next meeting is Tuesday, the 22nd of July at 2025. That's the normal one at 6 p.m. Any items for the next agenda? Okay then, admissions to meetings are resolved that under the Public Bodies Admissions to Meetings Act 1960, the public be excluded from the meeting on the grounds that publicity would be prejudicial to public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted, namely any employment matters and legal issues relating to the matters on this agenda. So can I have a proposal that we go into confidential session? Councillor Raffensperger? Yeah. Seconded by Councillor Youngman. All in favour, please. That's everyone. Thank you very much.
Just bear with Lauren a moment. Thank you.